What does it mean to be fair as a landlord? Today, we're going to talk about fair housing laws and what you, as a landlord, need to know to make sure you get ahead of a complaint being filed against you. So, I had a client recently who had a biker gang who wanted to rent collectively a couple of units in his complex and live near each other. But he had an inherent dislike for that and said, no, I'm not going to rent to you based on the fact of your collective interest. Now, since they were not a protected class, he could do that. But you need to be careful if you're going to make a determination like that about what you can and cannot do, because if they had been a collected class, that could be a real issue. So the first thing that you want to be aware of is that you need to understand that there's several different levels of both a federal, state, and local compliance. And what may be protected at the federal level is traditionally layered on at both the state as well as the local level may have some stipulations as well. So you need to make sure that you're aware of each one of those different levels when you're understanding what's protected. And that's typically the things you're going to think of race, color, family status, disability, and things like that. Now, something that you should be aware of and have on your radar is that a source of income may be considered a protected class in some jurisdictions. Now, I'm currently in Pennsylvania, which in most areas, source of income is not a protected status, except in the Philadelphia market, and they're talking about it coming into Pittsburgh. So this matters because if you have a tenant who has a Section 8 voucher, you as the landlord have the right to say no, that you don't want to accept that voucher unless source of income is considered in the local municipality as a protected status, in which case you can't say, no, I won't take your Section 8 voucher, because you have to treat everyone the same regardless of where their income is coming from. So be very careful and aware of the source of income restrictions that may or may not exist. The third thing is that you have to be aware of disparate impact. And what that means is essentially that if your treatment of, let's say, everyone who has a criminal background is the same across the board, what you have to be careful to avoid is that if all the people who are typically having a criminal background are of a certain ethnicity, then you may be treating all those people unequally compared to the greater population at large. So just be aware that your policies have to be careful not to specifically exclude someone based on that specific policy, or maybe it's a credit score. Do people of a certain classification have a lower credit score than other? That type of thing. The fourth thing you need to be aware of is that sexual harassment make up a huge amount of the settlements that take place when you have a fair housing complaint. So you need to be very careful to guard against sexual harassment and have policies in place to protect against it. Now, the fifth one is disabilities, and this has really become a hot button issue, unfortunately, because of people who have abused the system with emotional support animals instead of calling them pets. So let's be clear, if someone has a disability, if they have a service animal, they must show that they, number one, have a documented disability by a medical professional, and number two, the service animal actually does something to help them live their life. It can't just be there for emotional support. So if you have a dog that's trained to be able to open the door for someone, let's say, that is a service animal, and you are allowed to ask for documentation for it. In contrast, an emotional support animal, not so much, but I understand it gets to be a sticky situation. So make sure you understand the difference and have a clear policy so that your staff knows how and when to set them apart. The sixth thing is that you want to be very careful to make sure that you're watching your ads and the words that you have in your ads. Because if you say this property is great for families because we have a pool, well, now you're calling out families. So just be very careful that the wording you use does not include classifications that could be perceived for someone to be able to have a grounds for a complaint. So I hope those 6 things brought you some value in order to be able to stay out of hot water when it comes to fair housing compliance, and obviously offer a welcoming atmosphere to everyone who needs housing within your communities. So if you're looking to buy or sell investment properties within Pennsylvania or Maryland, please reach out to us. We're always happy to help.